Clemson having to sweat a little bit this afternoon. Justin Fields channeling his inner Graham Mertz. The Heels bounce back. The Rebs and Tigers. Wow. Another wild one with these two teams on the field. And let's targeting. Let's target to get a lot of these calls out of the game. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. It is 3 o'clock Eastern time, and we are making our way through a tremendous noon window of college football here, and maybe a few surprises, at least for a while, as we look toward the ACC in the top spot, and a lot of orange on the field at Clemson. And it was a bit tight for a while, but now the Tigers are taking control at 40-21. We just witnessed a tremendous Seth Williams from Bo Nix connection in Oxford as Auburn takes the lead over Ole Miss now 35-28. They went for the 2-point conversion and converted there. So those of you who have a few dollars on the game, you might take notice with a big smile on your face or a scowl right now, because that's a 6-point spread. Ole Miss getting the points, down 7 now after leading by 1. And again, Ole Miss just had the football with 5 minutes left on the clock, trying to run it out and go on one of those lengthy 4-minute drives to kill the clock. And Lane Kiffin's offense doesn't necessarily fit that scenario. Now Ole Miss is going to have to come back with Matt Corral at the controls. John Rice Plumlee has had a tremendous day when he has spotted Corral today in the passing game. Of course, Rice Plumlee is one of the fine runners in college football from the quarterback position, and Ole Miss has just misfired with about 3 minutes left. It's a 2nd and 10 play in their own territory at their own 25-yard line. Again, Auburn leads Ole Miss 35-28. To the games that involve the contenders, and then I will get to the live chat. We've got Ohio State with a 45-17 lead on Nebraska. The Huskers scored first to lead 7-0. They had a 14-14 game sometime in the second quarter. The Buckeyes have dominated since. A couple disqualifications that will affect Nebraska's defense heavily next week against Wisconsin. We'll detail the Buckeyes and the Huskers in just a second. Wild game at Clemson with the orange hanging in, thanks to a 80-yard play that brought the score to 27-21. And now Clemson had a fumble recovery touchdown and another offensive touchdown to break that game open at 40-21. Again, this game is tremendous. Ole Miss has converted a first down. They now have another, first down conversion here with about, we are really getting down to the nitty-gritty here. I didn't realize the time was down to, 26 seconds in Oxford. Auburn leads 35-28. Ole Miss at its own 49, 26 seconds left, first down and 10. Clemson is making a mad rush toward that 46-point spread after a 27-21 game. They're now leading 47-21. Obviously, I'm just kidding there, but still 47-21 as Clemson was challenged there for a while. Big bounce back, as I mentioned off the top, from North Carolina football leading against NC State 45-14. They've dominated that game. I got to tell you that I watched primarily Ohio State, Nebraska, at least to the point when it was competitive. Once it got in that 38-17 range, I really focused on this Ole Miss Auburn game. And the other games were pretty much salted away at that point. I started to get interested in Clemson and Syracuse. Syracuse took over the ball at 27-21, down 6 with about a minute left in the third quarter. Syracuse had the ball down 6, minute left in the third quarter. And the quarterback, Culpepper, fumbled. And that was a fumble recovery, scoop and score 6 for Clemson to break it open, and they haven't looked back from there. Other scores of note, Kansas State leads Kansas 55-7. And, of course, we'll take you right up to the 3:40 kickoffs. 8 seconds left. It looks like Auburn's in great shape. I think they just took over the ball on downs by the looks of Lane Kiffin. I believe. So it looks like Auburn is not just going to survive, but as their season is hung in the balance from week one, Auburn's has. They lost last week after leading by 9 against South Carolina on the road. They had the would-be loss to Arkansas. They got pummeled by Georgia by 3 touchdowns. They won the week 1 affair against Kentucky. A 2-point game midway through the fourth quarter. Getting even, first one here. Good to see you. Hara Lord does not like the officiating in the Ohio State game. I don't necessarily know that it's helped Ohio State that much. It's more or less hurt Nebraska for next week against Wisconsin. And talking about the targeting, I know that there was a pass interference call that was a bad one against Nebraska. We'll get to that in just a second when the game was still competitive. Yeah, regardless of the score, I wouldn't be that concerned about Ohio State football. They haven't looked great, especially on defense early, but the defense has played well in the second half. The rush defense against Adrian Martinez, not good to start the game, for sure. Another concerning aspect of the game for Ohio State, at least early, was they were not getting running yardage out of the running backs. Justin Fields was getting all the rushing yardage, and especially on short yardage situations, Ohio State's offensive line was not able to move out Nebraska. The Huskers played a really good first 3 quarters along the defensive front. So it's good to see, again, getting even. Harlord, Cowboys, Steve-O, Bo's in the house. Yeah, Clemson pouring it on right now at 47-21 with 9 minutes left to play. Navy Thomas. Nebraska flush job out with the 3-4 defense crap bag for 4 years. Ole Miss almost made this one happen. Oh, my goodness. And Gus Malzahn is holding his head after that play. Did you just see that? Ole Miss runs a post pattern. The receiver, it was the tight end, Yeboah, drops the ball right in his gut at like the 7-yard line. Unbelievable. So we got 3 seconds left. Desperation time for Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin just can't believe that one of his best players just dropped the ball inside the 10-yard line. And he could have, it would have been a do-or-die play. The time would have run out on him had he not made it to the end zone, but he caught it around the 7. He did have a defender right in front of him, but had he made him miss or carried him into the end zone, then Ole Miss would have had a dramatic late score there. Getting even. Thank you so much for the super chat contribution. It is so much appreciated. How many TDs did Justin end up throwing for today, Mark? I think you asked me this. It must have been you, or you wouldn't be asking me this now. I think you asked how many would he throw. Last night, you asked. I think I threw up the 4 number. What do we got on Justin Fields? So my line about Justin Fields to open the show was about Justin Fields channeling his inner Graham Mertz, who was, of course, almost perfect last night, and Justin Fields almost perfect in this game. Auburn intercepts at its own 5-yard line. Game over. Auburn 35, Ole Miss 28. Rebs fall to 1-4. Most exciting 1-4 team in the nation. Ole Miss football. Yet they're 1-4. Auburn goes to 3-2. Justin Fields right now, 2 touchdown passes, 20 of 21 passing. All right. Getting even. I don't necessarily get your point, except I'm going to answer your question by going to the box score. And anytime you want to provide a question like that and a super chat as well, it is definitely welcome. Always good to see Navy Thomas, one of the originals. Hey, Tom. Seth Bevins, Ohio State's receiving staff is unreal. You've got Alabama's core. You've got Ohio State's core. Those are the two best in the country. Clemson's up there. North Carolina's up there. But those two, in terms of depth, skill, ability, length, ability to pluck the ball out of the air, high point the football, run after the catch. The play that was made for the final Ohio State touchdown, Buckeyes lead 45-17 with 3:30 left. For the final Ohio State touchdown by Smith Majigba. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I should by now, since we've known about him throughout the recruiting process, the 5th-rated wide receiver in the country. In real time, with the naked eye, it appeared as though there was no way that he got a foot down in bounds because the rest of his body was hovering over the out-of-bounds territory. So it was a revelation to Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt doing the game and to myself after watching the replay that he, in fact, twisted his foot down and his leg to be able to be. It reminds me of the Super Bowl 10 catch by Lynn Swann along the sideline in which his body's above the white out of bounds, but he's able to contort the bottom portion of his leg to be able to get that inbounds. Yes, and Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, phenomenal today. What are his numbers? And the numbers are only part of the story. 7 catches for $129 and a touchdown. He's been phenomenal. It's been phenomenal. Got some calls coming in, and we, of course, will take you up until the kickoff at 3:35, 3:40, something in that range. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's George.
Hey, George. What's up?
What a day. It's only 12:15 in the afternoon in Oregon, and I feel like I've been through wash, spin, rinse, and the dryer. This is great.
Is that from watching the end of this Ole Miss Auburn game?
Well, Ole Miss should have won the game. Yeah, the guy touched that ball, but, what are you going to do?
Wait, whoa. What happened?
There was a punt, and the guy's pinky finger touched the ball, but the ref said he didn't touch it.
Got you. So it was
the ball. It should have been a touchdown for Ole Miss. It would be tied going to overtime right now.
Oh, I'm going to have to pick up on that. I missed that.
Right. And I take back what I said earlier. I said the Pac-12 and the Big Ten should not be allowed to participate in the playoff because they haven't played enough games. But after watching what I saw today, I think Ohio State should just be given a spot. I mean, my gosh. Wow.
So you like the Buckeyes? Yeah, they played pretty well today. Got off to a rough start, but really good teams do that from time to time, i.e. Clemson struggled a little bit today for 3 quarters.
Yep.
Everybody thinks Clemson's invincible. Nobody can touch them, but lowly Syracuse, supposed to be the worst team in the conference, played right with them for 3 quarters.
I'm not sure how that works. They must have Clemson's number or something. That's every year.
Yeah, pretty much.
Man, we got a lot of football left today.
We do. A lot of good games at 3:30 here. Well, 12:30 for you. A lot of good games. Alabama, Tennessee, not necessarily, but Pitt, Notre Dame, Penn State, Indiana, and some other ones. Yeah. Miami plays tonight. Yeah.
Did Florida State win that game?
They were down big at halftime, 31-14.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost thought they were going to lose that game. That's just Louisville's pretty good no matter what. They're still pretty good.
I'll check this one out.
Yeah. Huh?
I'll check that out for you. Let's see what we got.
Okay.
We got We're 7 minutes left. Louisville 48-16. Yikes.
Yeah, that's over.
Yeah, I hated tweeting my Florida State friends, my guys, Logan Robinson, Jason Parker, James Coleman. I just basically said, I just caught the last couple of plays of the first half because I was watching the better games, but they said that Louisville had over 400 yards in the first half.
Yeah. We've all seen the potential for Louisville in the game so far. I mean, it's not that surprising, really.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. Florida State's played like garbage the whole year. They had the one miracle first half against North Carolina, so it's back to the starting blocks for Florida State and looking
at least
pathetic.
They don't get shut out on the season. At least they won one game.
They've got two if we count Jacksonville State.
Man, oh man.
All right, George.
Hey,
anything else?
I listened to your tape last night from the post-game show.
Yeah.
And I heard that part about the algorithm and the words on YouTube and the monetization.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that up because I will be more careful when I'm joking around.
I appreciate that, George. I appreciate that. I'm not saying that toward you.
It's a shame, but
it is. I think we should, you know me, and I got another call coming in, but I do want to make this point. You know me, I don't want streams of profanity on this show, but people should be able to, if a word slips here and there, it's not a big deal, and it shouldn't be a big deal. And I don't necessarily know if that's what it's pointed to, but it's pretty obvious on these live streams that I get just dinged big time, like 90% down the drain for those. So, George, you're always appreciated, man.
If you have a moderator and they delete it real quick, does that help?
I don't know. I would think so. I would hope so. I would hope so. I would think so.
Is there a rule book somewhere you can
A
study?
rule book on YouTube. Oh man, there's just a whole lot of theories out there. Is what there is. All right, George.
All right, next call.
Appreciate it, man.
Later.
All right. Apologize to whomever was calling there. Just wanted to make that final point with our guy George calling in from the Great Northwest. Young kids, Midwest, Nebraska did come to play. That defensive line has made it difficult early on. Yes, the Nebraska defensive line played well, and that wasn't necessarily a point of strength that I would have considered since they lost Khalil Davis, Carlos Davis, Darian Daniels. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
How you doing today, boys?
I'm good. What's going on?
Well, hey, I watched it today. Yeah, they look pretty good. They got some things they got to clean up, maybe on the defensive side of the football. Those linebackers, I think, had some struggles a little bit.
Yep.
Kind of reminiscent of 2 years ago a little bit, as far as that goes. But, still like to see them get a little bit more out of those backs. I think they're struggling to find the right running back, by the way.
I think I'm talking to Dave. I like the callers to identify themselves.
Oh, my bad, Mark.
Okay.
All
right, Dave.
Green Shield.
Very good. Very good. Yes, I had the same thoughts, and I've got the same notes. My first couple notes are almost exactly what you're talking about concerning the linebackers. The quarterback running was certainly an issue in the first few drives of the game. Yep.
Yeah, I think that I don't know whether it's going to be changing for Teague. Teague seems more like a plotter to me, like a grinder. He doesn't there were some openings there where you could see J.K. would have gone through things and gotten a lot more yards. And Teague's only getting a couple.
Well, that's what I'm not understanding, Dave, because I have the same exact impression of Master Teague going back to his carries last year, and especially once they started to play the better defenses late in the year, that's what he looks like. He looks like Raymond Harris to me. Yeah. And I hear from our Ohio State guys that he has the best time in the 40 in the running back room and did with JK there.
Yeah, I don't see the explosiveness. I'm with you, Mark, and I'm with the Ohio State guys on that. By the way, that's a lofty comparison comparison, if you compare him to Raymond Harris, that was one of my favorite Ohio State packs. I would like to see them maybe, see if they incorporate a little bit more of Sermon as the year goes on, or Chambers. They showed a little bit as the game wore along too. So that's going to be interesting to see how Day rotates them. By the way, I do not like the fact that he kept Fields in when they're up 4 touchdowns. I mean, come on, the game's over with. Even Klatt was screaming about that.
Yeah, I don't like that. I wasn't watching the game at that point, but I just don't see any reason for that, and especially with his health being in question. Well, it's not in question now, but we know that any quarterback, any player is only one play away, and considering what happened last year. Yep.
Right. Yeah, because the only mistake play that I disagree with Jay on was that play at that end of that Penn State game when they're up 2 scores and he had them throw a pass with less than 2 minutes left and they're up 2 scores. I mean, come on. I mean, the game was in hand. You don't have to have him throw a pass there. Remember, he got dinged on that play. So that was not good ball there. By the way, Sparty, by the way, against Rutgers, it's not going to be a good thing for Sparty going forward. This is going to be a rough year for Mel Tucker.
Yep, it appears so. Not a big surprise there.
Yeah. And if you're taking it on the chin from Rutgers, that's a bad sign.
Yeah, the last I saw was 28-13. I don't know what the final was.
Yeah, I got it on. It's 38-27.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
Right. Yeah, it looks like Rutgers has got a minute and a half left. It looks about over with. So we'll see. Yeah, it's going to be a rough start for the coach there. I think it's going to be a rough year up there in East Lansing. So, yeah, by the way, I got my pick in for the day, Mark. I took Penn State minus the 6 against Indiana. What do you think?
Well, I'm right there with you. I'm not that confident about it, but that's the same selection I made. That is the same one I made. Yep.
Yeah, I think they're a touchdown better, just bottom line. I just got to think they're a touchdown better. I mean, I know that, Indiana's got some offense. They got a quarterback. They got a receivers. They got a running back that's pretty good. But I just think that, I know you said about Clifford's inconsistency, but Indiana, I don't think that they got the horses on defense. I think Penn State will be able to run the ball, and I think Clifford will make some plays throwing it.
Yeah, I just know, of course, Indiana has a recent history of playing close to all the big boys, excluding the Ohio State game last year, and Penn State has really struggled with them the last 2 years. And, you were certainly one the other day who touted Michael Penix and his ability.
Yeah.
See, I'm not necessarily rushing out to bet a game when I think that a particular team's a touchdown better and they're up and they're a 6-point favorite.
Right. Well, I just got a feeling that Penn State's at least a touchdown better.
Okay.
And that's my I picked it by 10. So I mean, we'll see. I think Indiana will move the ball a little bit. I like Penix, and I like Watt Fillier's a good receiver, and who's the running back? What's Stevie? What's his name?
Oh my goodness, yeah, Stevie Scott.
Yeah, Scott, the running back. He's a good little player too. So yeah, I think they'll move the ball a little bit against Penn State, but I think Clifford will make some plays, and watch out for Noah Cain at running back. He can still play.
Sure.
I know they lost Journey Brown, but Cain's a good little back too. So
absolutely.
I think they'll run the ball well on them too. So that's my pick, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Well, Indiana played pretty much everybody close last year, win or lose.
That's true.
Pretty much.
That's true. You got any other picks that you like today against the spread?
Just everything that you've already seen. So we'll just stay with those. All right, David, I appreciate it.
You want a live stream tonight after the Michigan Minnesota?
Absolutely, we will. Yes, sir.
All right, my friend.
All right, thank you so much for the call.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Our guy, David Greenshield. And, so the predictions are over on Patreon. Not the best of luck in the last few minutes of a couple of these games, unfortunately. I did take Nebraska in 26 points. Did take Ole Miss in the 6th. They lost by 7. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hello, it's me, Roberto LeBron.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing great.
Good.
So yeah, that was an interesting game. But Justin Fields almost had like a perfect game. If it wasn't for the drop touchdown on Chris Olave and like very tight coverage too.
Yeah. Yeah, he was on it.
What
He
do you
was.
think? Well, do you think like there's a little bit of concerns in the run game, or just the defense is just good in Nebraska?
I think that every team is going to look marginal in some areas, especially the first game of the season. And I think you have to give Nebraska some level of credit. Is there concern? Sure. Not every position, not every player on the field is going to be elite for any of the big teams. Yeah, they had difficulty containing the quarterback run, especially the first couple drives of the game. They had difficulty moving Nebraska off the ball on how many consecutive 3rd and 1 plays did they not convert? Yeah, the run game from the running backs was not great. We don't want Justin Fields. Ohio State fans do not want Justin Fields having to run 15, 16 times. I don't know what he ran today, but that's not a good formula. And so those would be,
especially coming next week on the team that he got injured last year.
Sure.
21 times.
Yeah, Justin Fields 15 carries today. That should be more in the 6 to 8 range, especially against a Nebraska team that's 35 points away.
Just question: how much does Penn State return? Because like last year, I think when I was watching that game last year, I think they had like the number 1 in rushing yards per game. I mean, sorry, not per game, per carry. We ran a little conservative, running like 60 times. And I think like AK and Fields had like 50 plus carries combined. Something to like 200 plus on that Penn State defense.
Yep. Absolutely. Should be a good one. But they've got to get by Indiana here. That's going to be tough enough.
Mm-hmm. When I saw like 1 goal in the Clemson game was 21-27. I don't know what happened.
Well, what happened right after that? I tuned to it.
Watching the game.
Yep.
I was at like a restaurant watching it on my phone. I was shocked to see like, it was like 27-14, then they got the pick 6 and put it within 1 possession.
Yep. Yeah, Syracuse had the ball with 1 minute left in the 3rd quarter, down 6. Their quarterback was careless with the football, got knocked out of his hands, scoop and score, and that started the rout. All right, anything else? All right. Appreciate it. I just kind of drifted off. I don't know. Maybe he was falling asleep or something, but we appreciate the phone call regardless. I don't know who that was. Miami Flow Football, thank you so much for the contribution. Appreciate what you do as well. Thank you so much for that contribution. And Beard God Kel, if you could just smash down the like button the one time, you don't need to give me the 2 thumbs up, but the one smashing of the like button would be great. Ryan D, our defense, I don't know who that's talking about, but knock some rust off. They have some work to do, but they looked better as the game went on. That's possibly an Ohio State fan. Yes. This is the first time I've ever seen KC Kevin Dog fan for life. Georgia fan here. Ohio State, you're welcome for the quarterback. Send Kirby a Christmas card. Man, send Kirby a birthday card, Christmas card, Easter basket. Keep sending the gifts. Wow. Did he not see that in practice? Now, was Justin Fields as good 2 years ago, 3 years ago as he is now? Of course not. But it's called talent evaluation. And obviously, they did the talent evaluating in bringing him to Georgia and signing him. The guy that's probably also sick to his stomach is James Franklin, because he originally got the commit from Justin Fields. Cheryl, thank you. One of our main moderators, Cheryl, in the chat. George giving the hint right there as well. All right, let's run it down right here. I'll give you my notes from the game. I'll skip the items that we've already hit on. Joel Klatt, one of the best in the business, was talking about the Nebraska passing attack and how they have changed their approach to a certain extent in giving Adrian Martinez more definite progression throws, progression process in the passing game. They discussed that to a certain extent. We saw Luke McCaffrey, the second or third play of the game. Luke McCaffrey gets in the game as a running back. So this is the kid who is of the McCaffrey family, the much heralded McCaffrey family, that is now challenging the Mannings to a certain extent. These guys are all over the place. They're at Nebraska and Michigan. They're in the NFL with the Panthers. Of course, the dad played with the Denver Broncos and won a few Super Bowls. But Luke McCaffrey, who lost the quarterback battle that many people did not anticipate being a quarterback battle, but he pushed Martinez for the starting spot, came into the game as a running back on the second or third play of the game and ran 47 yards. Hooker missed a tackle, got just juked out of his shoes on that one, and that led to the Martinez touchdown, 7-0. Garrett Wilson from the get-go, from play number 2 in the game, was obviously a part of the offensive game planning and should be the rest of the year. This kid's exceptional, had a tremendous season as a freshman, just getting warmed up behind all the vets. Think of all the Ohio State wide receiver talent on that 2019 team. Olave, Hill, Victor, and McLaurin, and that Garrett Wilson still caught 6 touchdowns and 30 balls. I did notice that despite Ohio State's tremendous wide receiver core, that at least the first few drives, there were some really excellent coverage plays by Nebraska's secondary. So Nebraska's bringing back the entire secondary. Well, they're not going to bring them back next week because they're all going to be out for targeting, but they're bringing them back for this season. And that was unfortunate. We'll get to that in just a second. Justin Fields, again, running too much. It's in my notes here. Threw a laser to Garrett Wilson for the post-pattern touchdown to make it 14-7. Concerns for the Buckeyes today. Justin Fields running the ball too much, partially because the defense is going to dictate. Nebraska might be doing a favor today for future teams that have to play Ohio State, wearing down Justin Fields as a runner, forcing him to run the ball and taking the ball out of the hands of the running backs and forcing the read to go to Justin Fields. That could wear him down later. Now, obviously, the number of games has been reduced. Thank you, Judge. Another moderator in the room. And again, Ohio State's inability on 3rd and short 3 consecutive times, and there were more times than that in the game, to not push out a Nebraska front that's inexperienced was a concern as well. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
Yeah, this is Matt Rose from Nebraska. How are you doing, Matt?
Hey, Matt, I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Just a few takeaways from the game. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I thought Nebraska, as far as their offense, they started off good, but typical, which is the most disappointing Nebraska fashion. Once the penalties and the turnovers started, they crumbled and fell, which that was the most disappointing for me, because I thought this year we might be able to bounce back from some adversity.
Yeah.
But just wasn't able to. I was surprised with our defensive line because we were inexperienced there. But as a Buckeyes fan, I would also say that would probably give you some
concern if you're a Buckeyes fan, because our defensive line and our linebackers are not that great. So your running game is probably going to have to improve if you want to get, aspirations of a title run.
Yep.
So my takeaways from the game today is it looks like typical Nebraska. We're going to let the penalties and once it snowballs, it's going to get out of control. And I think today could have been a game where we could have kept it within 17, but like I said, once it broke down right there before the first half, it just looked like typical Nebraska again. So until that changes, we're not going to be able to stay in the games with the big dogs.
Matt, I hate that
That's all
two
I
of
have.
your. I was just going to say that I hate that two of your best defensive players, Deontay Williams and Cam Taylor-Britt, were called for targeting and are going to miss the first half of obviously a difficult game against Wisconsin next week.
Yeah, and Joel Klatt during the game, he kind of touched on that.
Yep.
I've always thought that too. That should be reviewed, but that again goes back to I think the problem with Nebraska is we don't have enough talent, and when you're out of position, you tend to make penalties and fouls. And when you're out of position, you have to reach and you have to do things as a defense to try to create things, and that usually ends up being a penalty. And our problem right now is we have the talent to kind of keep up for the first three quarters, but once we get tired and out of position, you wind up as a football player having to do things to create things, and that usually means you're creating penalties. So it's just we're not talented enough, and we're out of position.
So, Matt, I've got good news for you. Despite the 35-point loss, we are starting our Nebraska live stream shows this Thursday night at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. So, Nebraska Talk for 1 hour, 6 o'clock Eastern Time on Thursday.
Well, good. I'm looking forward to that. So
All right, sir.
I know you have a lot of Husker fans that are in your chat, and I'm one of them that tries to get in there as much as I can. So I'm not working, so I'll look forward, and I'll have to set the old reminder on my phone to get on and watch that. But I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you've got a busy show, but I think Ohio State, if they can get their running game going, they're probably one of the most unstoppable teams because they got the wide receivers, they got the quarterback. So if they can replace J.K. Dobbins and get that running game going, I don't think there's too many teams that can stop them right now. So especially in the conference. There
it is, Matt. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the call.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Have a good day. Bye.
All right. I think we have run up against kickoff here at 3:30. Pick out your favorite 3:30 game. We've got Alabama taking on Tennessee, Notre Dame and Pitt, Indiana, Penn State. Those are the three I'm going to lock in on, understanding that most likely I'll get in the first three Alabama touchdowns in the first quarter and then move away from that game. But it is Alabama, Tennessee. So there is a longstanding tradition as one of the great rivalries in college football. So I give it that level of respect again until it's 21-0 in the first quarter, and then I move away from that. Bears, Cubs, Canes, appreciate the contribution. You know that. Thank you so much. And unless I see anything else on, we will move on. I will do what I typically do. I'm going to run through all the noon games. I got them on DVR. I'm going to try to run through them, get you some instant analysis while I put all the 3:45 games on DVR and try to catch up with those around halftime. And we try to watch all these games in like an hour and a half instead of 3 hours and try to watch as much football as we possibly can to get you an analysis of as many games as possible. We'll be back here tonight after Michigan, Minnesota, and that primetime window to talk more college football with you. I appreciate everybody jumping on. Have a great day. Watch the good football games. The 3:30 window is tremendous. See you after primetime tonight.